7 new and noteworthy WordPress plugins for podcasters. Welcome to the Audacity to Podcast, episode 227. Thank you for joining me for another episode of the Audacity to Podcast. I'm Daniel J. Lewis, and this is the award-winning how-to podcast about podcasting. It's where I give you the guts and teach you the tools to launch or improve your own podcast for sharing your passions and finding success. This episode is brought to you by Social Subscribe and Follow Icons. It's the best WordPress plugin for bloggers and podcasters to make it easy for visitors to subscribe to your content and follow you on social networks. And guess what? I made it, and it's being updated this very week. New update comes out on July 18th. I'll tell you more about that later on as it fits in with the content. I've talked about WordPress a lot in the Audacity to Podcast because WordPress is a great platform for creating your website and for running your podcast. I know there is a lot of debate about should you use your WordPress feed from PowerPress or should you use your feed from somewhere else like Libsyn or Blubrry or anything else like that. And I have a couple different posts relating to that, and I link to them in the show notes for this episode, number 227, at theaudacitytopodcast.com/newplugins2015. But regardless of what makes your RSS feed for your podcast, you will probably want to have a WordPress website that does more than just hosting text for your podcast. You want your podcast player on there. You want options for people to subscribe to your podcast, to follow you on social networks, to connect with you in different ways, engage with your content. And you want your website to be shareable as well, making it easy for people to engage and keeping your website up to date and keeping it beautifully designed and the way that it works, working great. I've talked about certain WordPress plugins before that I recommend, so I'm not going to rehash a complete recommendation of all of the WordPress plugins out there that I use and recommend for podcasting websites powered by WordPress. But this is a list of 7 that I think are new and noteworthy. And I hope you've learned by now the lesson of new and noteworthy from iTunes is that's really a list of 2 different types of things. One is new. One is noteworthy, and so it's a combined list. So some of these plugins are new. Some of them I consider noteworthy, but they're not necessarily new. You can follow along in the show notes at theaudacitytopodcast.com/newplugins2015. Number 1, and this plugin isn't out yet for the public at the time of this recording, Libsyn Podcast Plugin. Yes, Libsyn has a plugin for WordPress. The most annoying part of using Libsyn with WordPress is that you're lacking some control in certain things, and the workflow for publishing your media to Libsyn and working with your own WordPress website can be a bit cumbersome. They have made other tools like OnPublish to try to simplify these things, but when you use something like that, you kind of lose some of the control and you're working with an unfamiliar interface. So the whole thing can just be a bit cumbersome to use, especially if you're using Libsyn to create your RSS feed instead of your WordPress website, like with PowerPress or something else. So Libsyn's new and free plugin for WordPress is called Libsyn Podcast Plugin, and it simplifies this process a lot more for you. You create your post inside of WordPress, like you're used to creating a blog post or a podcast episode inside of WordPress. And then you can upload your media to Libsyn without leaving the WordPress post editor. Previously, the only plugin that would give you this feature would be PowerPress if you're uploading to Blubrry for your media host. And I do still recommend Blubrry, and I still recommend Libsyn. They're both great for different needs. And the promo code NOODLE will give you a free month with either platform if you'd like to check them out. But what then happens that's better than the way Libsyn previously did this with their OnPublish feature is the information you enter in your blog post gets carried over to your Libsyn account and kept up to date in your Libsyn account to create a podcast episode post which is much better than for download only. You should never be uploading your podcast media files to Libsyn as file for download only. It should always be a post with a title and at least a short description. But what this new plugin from Libsyn will do for you is it will take the title and the body text from your WordPress post and make that the title and the episode description of your episode over on the Libsyn side. So when you use your Libsyn RSS feed, you're publishing your content once on WordPress, and then it replicates that content and keeps it updated if you change things over on the WordPress side as well as on the Libsyn side. So this is ideal for if you're using Libsyn to create your RSS feed. And if you're not already using PowerPress. In fact, the Libsyn Podcast Plugin and Blubrry PowerPress are not compatible. When you install Libsyn Podcast Plugin, it will actually tell you this is not compatible with PowerPress. And I don't really see the need for using both of them because they're both trying to solve the same problem. They're both giving you essentially the same features, but just applying different technological solutions to solve those problems and give you those features. So trying to use both PowerPress and the Libsyn Podcast Plugin would be highly redundant, completely unnecessary to run both of these. It's really one or the other. I still recommend PowerPress on your WordPress website because of its extensibility, its extreme power and control over your SEO for your podcast, and a lot of great things that currently you can't do and may never be able to do with the Libsyn Podcast Plugin. But if you're already using Libsyn to create your RSS feed for your podcast, then this plugin might be what you need. Or if you are not using PowerPress at all on your website, this plugin might be what you need. Just don't try and combine it with PowerPress because they don't play nicely together. They are not designed to work together. If you're currently using PowerPress and you've been doing some kind of double-step process in order to create your RSS feed on Libsyn as well as on your website, and you just want it all created on the Libsyn side, there is no easy migration tool right now, like there is for moving from any media host over to Blubrry. However, there are some steps that the Libsyn support team can take you through depending on your particular situation of how you've generated your feed, how you've used your Libsyn account and such. So you can work with their support team to get that taken care of and go through the steps yourself. Or I'm also available for hire that I can help you and fix these things for you if you need them like that. What's also neat about this is that it doesn't break the on-publish feature that Libsyn already has. The on-publish feature, as its name suggests, executes certain commands on publishing your podcast episode on Libsyn. So for example, you can set up Libsyn on publish to automatically go out to Twitter, to Facebook, to a WordPress blog, to other blogging and social platforms and such. So the Libsyn Podcast plugin will actually turn off the WordPress on publish because you don't want to create this loop going on. But it doesn't break the other on-publish features. So if you publish your podcast episode on WordPress, then it uploads to Libsyn, updates your RSS feed that's coming from Libsyn, then it will still do the other on-publish features for you, like publishing to SoundCloud, Twitter, to Facebook, to Spotify, to whatever other platforms that you have enabled over there in the on-publish settings for Libsyn. The Libsyn WordPress plugin does include the Libsyn player inside your post. And right now, I don't really like their player. I know they've got a long list of things they are working to update, and they've got several things that have been requested and are on their roadmap to eventually include, like iTunes subscription links or a download link, which is not included right now at all, which that, to me, that's a big thing that's not included. But there will be other things that will be supported in the future, and at some point we'll get a better looking player and different features like that. But right now, it includes the regular Libsyn player in your WordPress post, just as if you were using on-publish, but this time you're working from WordPress. So what this gives you is that you can then manage your WordPress site and your content there and your RSS feed that's generated by Libsyn and your media hosting with Libsyn without leaving WordPress for the most part. You'd still need to leave WordPress in order to change things about your Libsyn podcast feed, like the title, the cover art, stuff like that, or to check your stats for your podcast episodes, whereas Blubrry integrates all of those things into one. Which one is really best for you is up to you to decide. If you're using PowerPress to create your podcast RSS feed, I don't recommend that you change at this time. If you're using Libsyn to create your podcast RSS feed, then maybe you could consider this, depending on your situation and depending on really the benefits to you in this situation. What does it benefit you to switch over? Do you need a better workflow and such? Regarding the debate of whether you should host your own RSS feed or use the RSS feed from your media host, I have a couple blog posts that I've written addressing this from different sides. One was why you may want to host your own podcast RSS feed, and the other blog post is why you may not want to host your own podcast RSS feed. And I have those blog posts linked in the show notes for this episode number 227 at theaudacitytopodcast.com/new plugins 2015. So this is number 1, the Libsyn Podcast Plugin. And this does, by the way, require a Libsyn hosting account. You can't use this with any other podcast media hosting like you can with PowerPress. And if you don't have Libsyn media hosting yet, you can get a free month if you use the promo code Noodle when you sign up for a new account. Number 2, Smart Podcast Player. As long as I'm talking about things that work on your website but don't necessarily integrate all that tightly with what you may already be doing on your website, I really want to bring some attention to Pat Flynn's Smart Podcast Player. This is outside of the PowerPress ecosystem, but I think this is really a beautiful podcast player. And it's more than just a single podcast player. There's also a great podcast playlist that's fully mobile responsive, has some great integrations and social sharing on it, and it just looks great, beautiful. I would say actually that Smart Podcast Player is the most beautiful podcast player you can have on a website. It just looks fantastic, and it has some customization with it. But this doesn't integrate with PowerPress at all, at least currently. And if you want all of your past episodes to use the Smart Podcast Player, you have to go back and edit all of your past podcast episodes to include the new Smart Podcast Player using shortcodes and certain stuff. That there's a button that you can press in your WordPress post editor that guides you through the options and lets you fill in different blanks in order to get the Smart Podcast Player embedded. So is it worth it? I don't know, but it is certainly beautiful. I've seen some people use this player in addition to other players because they like the playlist feature of Smart Podcast Player, and it is absolutely beautiful. If you click on the link in the show notes at theaudacitytopodcast.com/new plugins 2015, you'll see my affiliate page that I have on Smart Podcast Player and some examples of what it might look like with the Audacity to Podcast and certain other cool things about the plugin that you might want to consider having on your website. So check it out. The link is in the show notes for episode 227. This does work regardless of your media host and regardless of what RSS feed that you're using. You could really, if you had to, you could use the SoundCloud feed, or you could use Audio Boom or Spreaker, or whatever podcast RSS feed you have can integrate with this into the playlist player, and then it displays all of the episodes that come in from that RSS feed. That's the Smart Podcast Player from Pat Flynn, and that's my number 2 recommendation. Number 3, Simple Podcast Press. This is now coming back into something that is more integrated into WordPress and the PowerPress ecosystem, but it doesn't have to be. Hanimura's Simple Podcast Press plugin combines a great looking podcast player, loads of features. I think it's the most feature-packed podcasting plugin, and easy PowerPress integration. Some of the great features that come with Simple Podcast Press are an easy iTunes, Stitcher download, and other custom buttons that can appear below each episode player. And the episode players themselves can also look a lot nicer than what you might typically get with the default players that come inside of PowerPress. It's not as beautiful as Smart Podcast Player, at least not yet, but it does still look great, and it's mobile friendly, and it's very clean. It stands out more than the default HTML5 player or media element.js player that you would typically get inside of PowerPress. But it doesn't stop there with just your episode player and download and subscription links. But Simple Podcast Press also gives you an email opt-in form that can display underneath every episode player, or it can display in a custom location inside of your post. Looks great. Again, it's mobile friendly. A new feature to Simple Podcast Press is collapsible transcripts. So if you write show notes, that's maybe just a paragraph and a short bullet point list of the resources for your episode, and then you have a full transcript or a much more in-depth list of show notes, you can put those inside of a shortcode or inside a special box inside of your post editor. And then Simple Podcast Press creates an expandable and collapsible link that when people go to your website, they see just your short show notes, and then they can click on this link. It expands down and they see your full show notes or transcript for your episode. It's great. It keeps it really clean on your webpage too. You also get things like short episode URLs easily integrated into when you create new episodes through the WordPress post editor. This could potentially replace PrettyLink Pro for several uses. Certainly one of the biggest reasons I love PrettyLink Pro is that I can create a pretty link for a page or post right there inside of the page or post editor. Simple Podcast Press includes that functionality for you, so you can make that easy / episode number or episode nickname or something like that for that particular episode. There's also an easy latest episode widget that you can display in your sidebar or in any widget area on any kind of WordPress theme, and that pulls from your PowerPress settings or your Simple Podcast Press settings and options there. And what's really neat about this, also a fairly new feature to Simple Podcast Press, is if you cover multiple topics in your episode, you may be interested in allowing people to visit your show notes and jump to that specific part of your episode in the audio. You can't do that by default with PowerPress, but you can with Simple Podcast Press, where you can create a special link that's a timecode link that in plain text, it tells people at 30 minutes and 27 seconds, this is when I start talking about this. But you can create that link in a special way with Simple Podcast Press that when someone clicks on that on your website, it jumps them to that spot in your audio. This is really cool, and I'm excited to start using this. I just need to tweak a couple things about my WordPress theme. Since I custom coded my WordPress theme, I have a couple incompatibility issues with the plugin, but that's my fault. That's not Hanny's fault. The Simple Podcast Press plugin works great with Appendipity themes and Genesis themes from StudioPress, as well as Elegant themes, the major 3 places where I recommend that you check out WordPress themes. So it works great with each of those. It just doesn't work for me because of some things I did. I just need to tweak my code a little bit. You can also get, and yes, I'm mentioning my competition here, but you can also get your podcast reviews inside of your WordPress website. This is a potential replacement for my own premium service, My Podcast Reviews, but it only lets you track one show and it doesn't email you, but there are some cool things still that you can do with it anyway. If you create your podcast feed from somewhere other than your own website with PowerPress or something else, Simple Podcast Press still is great for a WordPress website because it can easily import all of your episodes from your iTunes URL or from an RSS feed that you give it and turn those episodes into posts on your website. And it can do so quite beautifully and very easily. So it's a great way that if you're using, maybe you're using your Libsyn feed and you don't like the on-publish feature, but you don't want to install the Libsyn podcast plugin, or maybe you're using SoundCloud or Spreaker or Audio Boom or any other service out there to create your podcast RSS feed, and you want that copied from that service onto your WordPress website, Simple Podcast Press can do that for you. And PowerPress users don't have to redo any of their old posts. If you want to use Simple Podcast Press and take advantage of the better player and the subscription buttons and the timecode links and all of its great features, just with a couple clicks, you can instantly replace all of your PowerPress players with the Simple Podcast Press. How many more words with a P can I say in this portion of the episode? but it makes it really fast and easy. You don't have to go back and edit every single episode, just those couple clicks. And by the way, if you want to get Simple Podcast Press, I have the link in the show notes, and I have a special promo code as well. Use the promo code NOODLE when you purchase to save 25% off any Simple Podcast Press license. This is a better discount than you can often get when the plugin is on sale by itself. And my code does not expire. So check out the link in the show notes for this. Or if you want to check it out at some point in the future, go to theaudacitytopodcast.com/simplepodcastpress. If you want to check out Pat Flynn's Smart Podcast Player, go to theaudacitytopodcast.com/smartpodcastplayer. These links are in the show notes for episode 227. This is number 3, Simple Podcast Press. Number 4, I know it's a little self-serving, but I think this is noteworthy. My plugin, Social Subscribe and Follow Icons version 1.2. This is the plugin that I created for bloggers and podcasters because it met a need I had. It met a need I saw other bloggers and podcasters having. And I didn't like custom coding the same thing for other people. So I just made a plugin that I could sell and that would give you many of the same features. And I'm really excited to announce that this week, at the time of this recording, on July 18th, 2015, version 1.2 will be released. And this contains the most requested feature. In addition to a lot of background things that took me a long time to fix certain bugs due to the way I switched a lot of things around in supporting this new feature. But this new feature is that you can now reorder your podcast networks and your links for Social Subscribe and Follow. Not just set a default reorder, but for every instance, whether it be a widget or shortcode or your default settings, you can change the order. Maybe you don't want iTunes first. Maybe you want Stitcher first, or Android first, or Vimeo, or YouTube, or something like that. Then you can change that order inside of Social Subscribe and Follow Icons version 1.2. The main purpose of Social Subscribe and Follow Icons, or as I call it for short, Subscribe and Follow, is to give you scalable icons for popular podcast apps and social networks. These are great for bloggers and podcasters to promote your presence in these different apps and networks. You can place these icons and list of links in widgets, in pages, in posts. You can feature one or several networks in a particular instance, and it turns that network into a button. If you go to any of my podcast websites, like theaudacitytopodcast.com, look at the homepage and you see the nice big subscribe in iTunes button. That is a featured icon inside of the plugin. I'm using my own plugin. I created it because I wanted this need. I knew many other podcasters needed this as well. You can add as many of these icons as you have network connections with, and more networks will be supported in future updates. Now that I've got 1.2 coming out, it will be much easier for me to continue putting out updates. Version 1.2 is a free update to everyone who ever purchased the plugin up until now. 1.2 will be a free update. Even if you haven't paid for a subscription to renew your license, 1.2 is still a free update. For any updates beyond 1.2, when I launch it on July 18th, 2015, it will require an active license. So if you purchase before July 18th, 2015, you get to lock in at the low price where it is. But as soon as I hit publish on version 1.2, the price for Social Subscribe and Follow icons will be going up. So if you purchase before July 18th, 2015, you get in at the lowest price before it goes up. On or after July 18th, 2015, when 1.2 has been released, you can still save during the month of July by using the promo code July Update. That works through July 31st, 2015, and you'll be able to save 20% off your initial purchase of Subscribe and Follow. Use that promo code July Update. I have the links to Social Subscribe and Follow icons in the show notes for episode 227, or you can go to subscribeandfollow.com and purchase there. I use Social Subscribe and Follow on all of my podcast websites, all of the websites I set up for podcast clients, as well as I use it on my personal blog for linking to my personal social networks. I don't use it for podcasting purposes there, but for blogging and social purposes there. And I also use it on podcastplaces.com. If you look at the list of blogs and podcasts about podcasting on podcastplaces.com, then you'll see the same familiar icons allowing you to subscribe in iTunes or through an RSS feed and such for each of those different podcasts and blogs about podcasting. So check it out at subscribeandfollow.com and use the promo code JULYUPDATE between July 18th and 31st, 2015 to save 20%, or buy it before July 18th to lock in at the lowest price, because it's not going to be this low again in the future. Now that 1.2 is out, I'll be able to put out more updates on a regular basis, and I'm steaming ahead for version 2.0, which will be a great major rewrite, but there are a lot of things to do in the meantime. It's great for bloggers, for podcasters. Check it out at theaudacitypodcast.com/newplugins2015. That's number 4, social subscribe and follow icons version 1.2. Number 5, social warfare. I mentioned this briefly in my last episode when I talked about what to do when your WordPress website is having trouble and how to troubleshoot it. And social warfare is my new favorite plugin for WordPress. This is a social sharing plugin, and it's the best I've seen. And by the way, in case you're wondering, this is completely different from what my subscribe and follow plugin does. Subscribe and follow is about letting people subscribe to you and follow you on social networks or these podcast apps. Whereas social warfare is about equipping your audience to share your content in social networks. I've used many different social sharing plugins and tried a lot, and I've been generally unhappy with all of them, or just bearing with some of them. Like I've tried Share This, Add This, Social Sharing Toolkit, Dig, Shareaholic, and many others. But I was never really that impressed with all of these other plugins. They just didn't do everything I wanted them to do. Social warfare, however, does. It provides the right features to make social sharing much more powerful on your website and much more attractive, and potentially help you to get your content more viral because it makes sharing even better than many of these other social sharing plugins do. Currently, social warfare supports Twitter, Facebook, Google+, LinkedIn, and Pinterest. That's it. Yeah, that's not as extensive as a plugin like Share This or Shareaholic, but these are the most important networks for you to consider sharing your content and enabling your audience to share your content. And what social warfare does with this short list of networks is what is really amazing. It's not a matter of how many networks does it support, but how well it supports these networks. It does stuff that I've not seen any other single plugin do for several years. And many of these are features I have wanted for years and years, and they're finally available with social warfare. For example, some of these may seem familiar, but I'll point out the unique ones. You can customize the image, the title, and description for the embedded links that will go out on Twitter, Facebook, and Google+. This is when you just share the URL to your post. What image goes out on Facebook or on Twitter if you have Twitter cards on your site, or on Google+. You can customize what image that is. Other plugins would typically use your regular WordPress featured image, or they might randomly grab an image from your post if you have an image in your post. And sometimes it's not the right one. Well, this plugin lets you specify, I want this image to be used for Twitter, Facebook, and Google+. It gives you a lot of power over that. That's kind of familiar. There have been SEO plugins that do that. But here's what's also cool. And I love this. I've wanted this for years. Because there's a Twitter button included with social warfare, you can customize what message is shared when someone clicks on that tweet button. So if, for example, you want hashtags as part of your title that share out to Twitter, or you want to mention someone in the tweet that goes out for this episode, you can customize that in the tweet message. So your title of your post and in your SEO title can be perfectly plain English, no weird symbols or hashtags or usernames or anything like that. but then the tweet message can contain the usernames and those hashtags, and it can automatically include a via your username if you want it to. That is great right there. That, I think, alone makes it worth the price. But wait, there's more. There's also a really easy and quite attractive click-to-tweet feature that embeds a quotation in your post that looks great. But then people can click on that and it tweets that quotation out from their account and it links back to your post and it can mention you if you'd like it to. This is wonderful. It's fast and easy, and it's a great way to get people sharing specific portions of your content. Like maybe you want to include some of your outline in a tweet or a special quotation from your guest or anything like that. Social Warfare makes this easy, and it's in this one plugin. Yes, there have been other click-to-tweet plugins, or you could make your own click-to-tweet link. This makes it easy to put it in your post, and it looks great. We've switched to this for beyondthetodolist.com. Eric Fisher's podcast over there. He was previously using another plugin that I discovered hadn't been updated in several years. I'll tell you how I found that out in just a moment because it's my next recommendation. But we switched over to this, and now the posts look beautiful and they're more tweetable because no longer is it just a link hidden inside of text, but it's this nice pull quote area of the text that you click on it and it sends out a tweet. This is what's also great about this plugin that I've not seen in any other social sharing plugins, except for ones dedicated to this social network. You can customize the description and the image that share to Pinterest. Pinterest is huge, especially for any kind of creative style podcast, but many podcasters are having great success with sharing their content to Pinterest and to relevant Pinterest boards. Some people have said their click-throughs from Pinterest have been even better than Twitter, Facebook, and Google Plus combined. That's pretty amazing. And on Pinterest, widescreen images and square images typically don't work the best. What work better on Pinterest are tall images. What happens by default, though, with many other social sharing plugins is if you click the Pinterest button, it just recommends all of the images that are in your post, and many of them are probably widescreen images or square images that just won't work as well on Pinterest. If you'd want the other plugins to work, you'd have to manually embed a tall image in your post, and then it just takes up space and it looks cluttered and clumsy. And there have been dedicated Pinterest plugins for WordPress, but that's another social sharing plugin in addition to whatever social sharing plugin you may have already been using. Social Warfare includes this in one plugin. So I can write that custom message that shares out on Twitter to include hashtags, to include links, to include paragraphs and paragraphs of content if I want it to. And I can upload a specific image for Twitter, like a tall image. The plugin recommends an image that's 2:3 ratio, and that can work great for Pinterest. Or you could upload something even taller than that if you'd like, and that image will share just when someone clicks on the Pinterest button. And you can see how I've started doing this with several recent episodes of the Audacity podcast, and I'll be doing it for every episode from here on out, where if you click that Pinterest button, it shares that nice tall image, a custom message that's different from what the other social network buttons do. So all of these great features that you could get from several different plugins, maybe, or some manual coding on your own, all of these are integrated into this one great social sharing plugin. I love this plugin, Social Warfare. It's really not that expensive either. It's very affordable. You're looking at $2 per month per domain at most. The more domains that you get licenses for, the less it costs per website. So check it out. I have the link in the show notes, or go to theaudacitypodcast.com/social warfare. I found in my own testing that switching from Shareaholic, which was my previous choice that I was just bearing with and accepting its many flaws. But when I switched from Shareaholic to Social Warfare, I immediately saw that my website size dropped by almost 200 kilobytes, which that doesn't seem like a lot, but that is a lot of different files that were being loaded by Shareaholic. And that is data that does slow down the load speed of my website. In fact, when I switched from Shareaholic to Social Warfare, it also decreased my page load speed by as much as 1.5 seconds. That's a big jump, especially when I was at somewhere around 4.5 seconds per page. Now I'm down to around 2.5 to 3 seconds for a page to load with the Audacity Podcast. And that was just from switching my social sharing plugin. I didn't do anything else, optimize anything else, change any other caching setup. I just switched my social sharing plugin to Social Warfare, and it made my pages load faster. So that's a nice hidden benefit there. And that is in addition to all of the other great features that Social Warfare has. I love this plugin, and the other hosts on Noodle Mix Network have also been liking how they can customize the tweets that go out in the posts or the Pinterest images and much more. I really, really recommend this plugin. It is definitely worth the cost. That's Social Warfare. You can get that at theaudacitytopodcast.com/social warfare, or the link is in the show notes at theaudacitytopodcast.com/new plugins 2015. That's number 5, Social Warfare. Number 6, no longer in directory. This is one of those kinds of plugins that you may have never thought of before, and you may never think of in the future, but it is extremely helpful. This solves a problem that you don't realize you might have. Free WordPress plugins can be great, yes, but sometimes the free WordPress plugins might be abandoned by their creators. And when a plugin is abandoned, that means it might not receive updates. It may break with compatibility for WordPress themes or plugins or new versions of WordPress. It might have security holes that have never been patched, and it could leave your website vulnerable to attacks. That's where the plugin No Longer in Directory really helps. What this does, as its name implies, is it checks all of your installed WordPress plugins, and it lets you know what plugins you have that are no longer in the WordPress plugin directory. It's an easy and fast way to see which of those plugins you use have stopped being updated. So you can then know what plugins you need to replace or consider doing without, because they might leave your website open to attacks, or they could be causing compatibility problems with other plugins. This is a wonderful thing. This is how I discovered certain plugins I was using on my own website that hadn't been updated in 3 years. Yeah, I was using, and in some cases, recommending plugins that were that old and that unsupported. But when I saw this list, I could easily work through the list and think, okay, that's no longer supported, so I need to find a better plugin. And it was pretty easy then to just type in similar search words inside of the WordPress plugins database to find other plugins I could use instead of that one that I was using that hadn't been updated in years. So this is number 6, no longer in directory. This is a free plugin that is available in the WordPress plugin directory. And then number 7, WP Featherlight. I have previously recommended a plugin for WordPress that would give you a nice, what we typically call lightbox effect, where if you click on an image, it could be a small thumbnail, it could be a large image, medium-sized image, whatever size. If it's linking to the full version of that image, when you click on that image, it does this nice zoom thing on your screen, fades out the background, and you see just that image as large as possible in your screen. I was previously recommending a jQuery plugin for WordPress that was pretty easy, had a lot of options that could be a little bit confusing, but it would give you this functionality. But it was the plugin No Longer in Directory that pointed out to me that that particular plugin hadn't been updated in 2 or 3 years. And I realized I need to find something better for this, something that's more up to date, maybe a little bit faster and lighter weight. Around the same time, I just read a review of this new plugin. It's so new, it's not even to version 1.0 yet. At the time of this recording, it's at version 0.2. It's that new, but it does work really well. And it's WP Featherlight. It gives you this nice lightbox effect for your images. And there aren't options that you need to worry about configuring. There are some extra cool things that you can do with the plugin that the documentation does explain how to use it for. But by default, you just install the plugin, activate it, and any image that links to the full version of the image will automatically be turned into this lightbox effect link So when you click on it, it zooms in on that image in this nice lightbox field. This plugin is also really lightweight. That's why it's got the name Featherlight. It works very fast. It's very lightweight. It's optimized really well. So it's not adding a lot of page load time or a lot of JavaScript or complicating things. This is a great, fast, simple, and lightweight plugin that gives you these great special effects. That's number 7, WP Featherlight. So these 7 new and noteworthy WordPress plugins for podcasters are in the show notes at theaudacitypodcast.com/new plugins 2015. And here they are again. Number 1, Libsyn Podcast Plugin. Number 2, Smart Podcast Player. Number 3, Simple Podcast Press. Number 4, Social Subscribe and Follow Icons. Number 5, Social Warfare. Number 6, No Longer in Directory. And number 7, WP Featherlight. You can get the links to all of these and their applicable coupon codes in the show notes for this episode, number 227, at theaudacitypodcast.com/new plugins 2015. And remember, this episode is brought to you by one of these plugins, and that is my own Social Subscribe and Follow Icons plugin. Remember to use that promo code July Update if you purchase on July 18th or later when version 1.2 has been released, and you can save 20% during the rest of the month of July. Or if you purchase before July 18th, then you lock in at the lowest price, and you'll get version 1.2 when it comes out on July 18th. I'm really looking forward to that plugin. I'm really looking forward to seeing what people do with it. And I'm looking forward to getting back into keeping the plugin updated because it was really stressful to try to fix these bugs that were introduced by switching things around. And that's why it took so stinking long to get an update out. Well, now that this update is out and some of the frameworks in the background have been changed, I can push out new updates, and I'm already working on the next update that will be exclusive to those who have an active license for Social Subscribe and Follow Icons. So check it out at subscribeandfollow.com. And if you purchase any time from July 18th through July 31st, 2015, use the promo code July Update to save 20% if you miss locking in at its lowest price. Besides that, I have one other announcement for you, and that is that Podcast Movement is coming up, and my promo code, which if you haven't guessed it, is Noodle, will save you 10% on your registration for Podcast Movement. I'm really looking forward to this. I will be presenting a session about how to improve your WordPress website for your podcast, mentioning certain things like this, these plugins that you need for your website, just how to make your website engage better with podcast listeners and make your website more valuable for podcast consumers and helping you be found more. Register at podcastmovement.com with the promo code Noodle, and you'll save 10% on your in-person ticket registration or even for the virtual ticket. If you're going to be there and would like to meet up with me there, I'm going to be hosting a meetup. I don't have the details yet, but please text PM 2015 to 33444. And that will put you on my email list and also put you on a special list where I'll be able to contact you with updates when I have them. So text PM 2015 to 33444 to get on that list and let me know that you'll be at Podcast Movement and you would like to be in my meetup when I have those details available for you. I don't have any iTunes reviews to thank for this episode, but I am very grateful for all of the past iTunes reviews I have received for the Audacity to Podcast. In fact, I want to share something really cool with you, is how these reviews are broken out. And I am using mypodcastreviews.com for my own podcast to get my global iTunes reviews emailed to me automatically. Here's the breakout of the number of reviews. And this is just amazing to see, not just the number, but where these reviews are coming from. That actually means more to me than the number itself. 166 reviews from the United States of America, 15 reviews from the United Kingdom, 17 reviews from Canada, 9 reviews from Australia, 1 review from Japan, 2 reviews from New Zealand, 1 review from South Africa, 1 review from Sweden, 1 review from Spain, 1 review from Brazil, 1 review from Switzerland, 1 review from the Netherlands, and 1 review from Nigeria. Wow, I didn't realize I had listeners in many of these countries. So thank you very much for those kind reviews. You can get the link to write your own review for the Audacity to Podcast by going to theaudacitypodcast.com and click on the iTunes button. And you can get your own podcast reviews emailed to you automatically on a regular basis, just like I have for my own podcast. And then you can see and sort your reviews to see all of your 5-star reviews or all of your reviews from Nigeria or New Zealand or whatever other countries you have reviews from. Go to mypodcastreviews.com to sign up for that. I'd love to hear from you. What are some of the WordPress plugins you've discovered this year that have been the best for you and have helped you with something on your website, or just something new you discovered that you didn't realize existed? It's new to you. Maybe not the plugin itself is new, but you discovered it and it's really helping you with your podcast or with your website. Please comment on the show notes and get the links to all of the resources I mentioned for episode 227 at theaudacitypodcast.com/new plugins 2015. Now that I've given you some of the guts and taught you some of the tools, it's time for you to go launch or improve your own podcast for sharing your passions and finding success. I'm Daniel J. Lewis from theaudacitypodcast.com and the Ramen Noodle on Twitter. Thank you for listening. The Audacity to Podcast is a proud member of Noodle Mix Network. Find more of our award-winning and award-nominated podcasts to make you think, laugh, and succeed at noodle.mx. Guess what? All of the podcasts on Noodle Mix Network are using social warfare. They're using social subscribe and follow icons. You should be too. Check out the links for those in the show notes for this episode, and check out all of those other podcasts that we host.